I pledge allegiance to the flag
To
of
the
the United
flag.
States
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
and to the
which it
republic
stands,
for which
one
it
nation,
stands,
under
one
God,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
Under God,
with liberty and
indivisible.
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our joint board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people.
Okay, so a couple of things that we wanted to add to this agenda. For the consent agenda, we have a records destruction request. And then we also wanted to add 2 items to the end of our village board agenda. A village Zoom account, as well as a discussion on whether to install a permanent sign on Huguenot Street. Motion to approve the agendas as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Announcements. Anybody want to make announcements?
I have a question.
This is Dan Hero.
Go ahead. You go.
So I just want to make a quick announcement. I understand that Alex Wojcik's not available, but Alex and I are going to be hosting on Wednesday, May 20th from 7 to 8:30. And we can send this around the Zoom link, but we're going to be hosting kind of a community conversation on the census with representatives from the census as well. We'll go more into it when we're doing it, but I don't think I have to tell you all the importance of filling out your census, especially now as we're talking about needing additional federal assistance as well. And just as a quick update, Ulster County at large is slightly behind the state average when it comes to filling out your census. And New Paltz has also been designated a hard place to count as well. So it's certainly more important now than ever that we do fill out our census.
Got it. And then we can make announcements about the various Zoom and YouTube conversations we have coming up. The county has a business specific conversation tomorrow. Can someone remind me what time that is?
I think that's Friday at 11.
Oh, that's on Friday?
Yep.
So got it. So tomorrow at 3 p.m., the town and village are hosting a conversation about what's next regarding New York on pause and the upcoming phases and how that might work. And then 8 a.m. on Friday morning, we are hosting a conversation with our sister city, Nimi City in Japan. It'll be 9 p.m. Japanese time. We're going to be circulating a link for anybody wanting to participate and check in with our sister city. And on Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., we've been doing these different business check-ins / community check-ins, and we're going to feature Michelle, the president of Woodland Pond, Friday afternoon at 3. So what time was the county conversation on Friday?
It's going to be 11 o'clock.
Great. Okay, so people can find out more details on Facebook and probably the county's COVID section of their website.
Yeah.
Any other announcements?
Did you do tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I did our
Okay.
3 o'clock conversation tomorrow.
Okay.
I have a question that could turn into an announcement if there's an answer. Did we decide upon a spring cleanup reschedule date, and not just for the like branches and such, but like items that people want to throw away?
Yeah, we can put that on the agenda item. I have an update on that topic.
Okay, great.
Let's put that at the end of the village board agenda, because we have some ideas on how to move forward. But there's a reason that we're not doing the pickup of items, because that costs us a lot of money and we're under serious fiscal stress right now.
Right.
But we have
Currently,
some ideas.
Currently, I think we say postponed or something on the website.
We say
Yeah.
postpone, so the idea would be we could do something like what the town does, where we could pick up bagged leaves and branches, because we could do that with, it'll take less time and it wouldn't cost us all the disposal fees that we end up paying when we pick up people's junk.
So just
So I have some,
foliage stuff. Is
yeah.
that the right word? I don't know. Okay.
Let's put that at the end of our village agenda, just as a discussion, because I've been working with Public Works on how we could do that.
Cool.
Any other announcements, or you want to, we could motion to open our public hearing? Nothing? Okay, I motion that we open the public hearing on the CDBG Small Cities Grant application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So Mark, why don't you go ahead and provide us with an intro in terms of what this public hearing is for and why we're doing it.
Each year, the village has an opportunity to apply for up to $750,000 as a grant for U.S. HUD funds administered by the New York State Office of Community Renewal, known simply as Small Cities Program. The village has applied annually since 2010, and the majority of years that we have applied, we've been successful. The projects we've done have included assistance for a water tank replacement, but most importantly, continued efforts to address the consent order related to the infiltration inflow of our sanitary sewer system. Since the consent order remains in effect, what has been most advantageous for the village is to continue to apply for incremental improvements to address the consent order without costing the village taxpayers much in terms of local contributions. Many of our projects have come in right around the $750,000 mark. One of our projects that will be proceeding tomorrow is one of these small cities projects approved in 2018, where we had $750,000. So this is another opportunity to apply. The prerequisite for applying is holding this public hearing. A previous village board meeting, we authorized by motion having the hearing tonight. We advertised in the newspaper at least 10 days prior to this hearing. We're anticipating a application due date again this year in context of the consolidated funding application process, perhaps in July, perhaps in August, perhaps in September. There are no details available. As of last week, when I spoke to one of the staff people there, they don't know when the window is going to open. Last year, it opened the last week of April. Clearly, it has not opened yet. The current pandemic is affecting everything in terms of the timing. But I was encouraged by Charlie Fillion, the program director there, to specifically get the public hearing requirement out of the way. So very simply, the application that was not approved last year makes good sense to apply for again. That application asks for $749,600. That's going to be modified a bit. But what does make sense is to continue to try to address the consent order. Last year's project was replacing sanitary sewer mains and manholes in areas that were identified by the DEC planning study as areas of more active and involved infiltration inflow. And that included Orchard Lane, Elting Avenue, Lincoln Place, South Chestnut Street, Overlook Road, Mohawk Avenue. Since it appears that the DEC will not lift the consent order until such time as we've made sufficient progress on terms of I&I removal, it only makes good sense to me to go at something that's worked for us before. The project would essentially be similar to last year with a few modifications that we know what we have to do in terms of making the application more eligible. Last year, the state funded 1 out of 3. The 2/3 that did not win did nothing wrong. There simply wasn't enough money. Whether or not there's more money this year as a consequence of the pandemic is anybody's guess, but it would be wise to try again. Persistence does pay off. So any project that has village-wide benefit of the type we're talking about here has benefit to primarily people of low moderate income. Since the village is 58% low moderate income according to the 2010 census, this project would again have village-wide benefit. It's eligible, it's reasonably competitive, it's worth trying again. And with that intro, what we need to do is now open the hearing to public questions and comments, which I'll be glad to address.
Okay, anyone here from the public or either one of our boards who wants to make a public comment on this project? I'm comfortable going ahead and closing the public hearing. A motion to close the public hearing?
Yeah.
Someone to second it?
Just so everybody knows, there haven't been any comments on the YouTube chat feed either. So just for the public to know.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks, Ari. So
Ariana, we
I heard
made
a
provision
second.
for 10
Was that
days
Bill?
following the hearing that- oh, sorry.
Yeah, second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you,
Good seeing
Tim.
you.
The ad provision for 10 days for people to comment, Ariana, you might want to be alert of any comments that come in writing that we would include with the minutes later on.
And
If
we'll see
anything
you
comes in, I'll
tomorrow.
be sure to do that.
And I'll see
And
everybody
we'll see-
tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock for the pre-construction. Good night,
Right, we're
everybody.
doing a pre-construction meeting with social distancing from Village Hall, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Bye now.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see
Thank
you.
Good to see you.
Okay, anyone want to make public comment? Maybe we can wait a second to see if any public comments show up on the YouTube feed. Nothing, Ari?
We got one person saying that they have no comment for the public hearing.
So joint business agenda, I feel comfortable like having these conversations with Neil and Dan. Obviously, we can't take any action, but like we can at least talk about these couple of things. Right?
Yeah, that's up to them,
Sure.
right? They're not obligated because no quorum, so. But we like you both,
Okay.
so.
Do we want to do climate related
Okay.
items? Because I did want to throw out an idea related to county government. Maybe we can discuss it as both boards. Or does someone want to mention anything regarding climate
All right,
related
can
items
you
right now?
unmute Neil? Can I do that? Actually, I can probably do that, right?
No, I don't think. No, there he is.
I'm
I'm
unmuted.
unmuted
Can you
now,
be
thanks.
unmuted? You got it? Okay, there you go. Hi.
So no climate related items. You want to save that for our village agenda? Okay. So this was, I'm curious about the sales tax agreement between Ulster County and the city of Kingston. My understanding is that the discussions on this topic have been along the lines of keeping it as is. I wondered if we could encourage or convince Ulster County and the city of Kingston, instead of entering into a 5-year agreement, to do a 1-year agreement and then consider it again next year. Because I understand, you know, that the sales tax picture is is completely different than what anyone would have anticipated. So that throws a monkey wrench in all of this. But I feel strongly that the way the agreement has been for the last 5+ years, it did not make sense, and it wasn't equitable for the towns and villages. While we're all kind of trying to figure out this new paradigm, maybe it would make sense to only enter into a 1-year agreement and then reconsider it. I wonder if that's even a possibility.
Well, we should find out. I probably, but yes to all of that. I mean, I still feel strongly about the
Dan, were you going to say
distribution.
something? That your box was lit up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do apologize, but because of my employment, I don't want to totally engage in the contract conversation on this one.
Okay.
We got that.
Neil, what about you?
I mean, I think at a minimum, it can't hurt to ask the mayor of Kingston his thoughts on it. He would be the one that I think would benefit the most from it. If he wants to negotiate a change in his deal at all, this is a bad time to negotiate any changes, or even to negotiate keeping what he currently has. You don't want to negotiate when the house is burning down. So it might.
My understanding is like before the house was burning.
He might be really interested in putting it off.
Yeah, but my understanding is before the house was burning down, he was comfortable with the status quo.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay.
But I feel like the towns and villages deserve like more, to be, I understand we don't have a seat at the table legally based on state law, but we're all neighbors, and it just feels terribly inequitable the way it's currently constructed. So
But
Yeah, I agree.
ironically, we're
go
not
ahead and
concerned
formally
maybe the way
ask-
to do it is
sales
to ask-
tax right now.
Wait, I think Neil was going to say
maybe
something
the
first,
ask
and then you,
could come
KT.
from the no, maybe the ask could come from the Ulster County Supervisors Association. I think there's pretty much consensus.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
in that group that they would like to see it renegotiated, and now's not the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't go to
What were you
that.
gonna say, KT?
You both do, so happy to hear that. I don't go to that, but you guys do, and I'm happy to hear that they sounds like they would be behind this, and I think that's a really good idea.
Well, I wouldn't want to put words in anyone's mouth from the Supervisors Association. We've had conversations, but I feel like feedback that I've got from some of them is they feel like, their hands were tied, which I didn't necessarily agree with or understand why they felt that way, but maybe we can continue to have that conversation. What I've tried to refer to is, if you look up the other 57 counties outside of New York City, the sales tax agreements are very different, and we saw Comptroller Auerbach's report from several years ago when when that was written, the Ulster County agreement feels very different than many other counties. And it's not reasonable to say
Not
that,
feels
well,
is. Dan did that report, but he's not talking.
he was wearing a different hat at that point.
Hi,
All right,
David
so-
Bronstein. You have a quorum now. If you want to have a meeting.
Great. Yes, no, I'm glad. Thank you.
Ari, can you unmute David? Thank you. So does the town need to open their meeting now?
I'd like to make a motion to open the town portion of the joint meeting.
This is Neil, second.
David, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, I motion that we approve the 4-2 joint meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town, you want to do your own motion on that one?
I make the
motion that we
same motion.
Accept the motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I motion that we move the fire protection contract 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 You guys want to move it, Town?
Same motion for the town.
A second. Neil?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Well, the town doesn't have anything on their business agenda. So, but you guys are welcome to hang out with us during our village meeting.
Did you need to add anything?
No, we met last week and we're meeting again next week. And things are mostly related to stuff that's changing day to day. So we'll probably have a lot of stuff next week to talk about, but we're good right now. At least I think we are.
Hey, Neil, one thing that you guys should probably check out, because we've been looking closer at this. We actually have a presentation coming up on a different type of vehicle charging station, but we both have that charge point via EV charging station. You guys have yours at the community center. We have ours at the Village Hall property. So we were looking to move away from using our meters to pay for the charge and actually using the ChargePoint software, but there's an annual fee. And when we pushed back and told ChargePoint that their fee was a little bit too high, they lopped off like $200. So it went from like $650 to $450. You guys should definitely do the same thing and call ChargePoint and tell them that you want them to look more closely at how much you pay for the for that vehicle charging station. That's probably easy money you could get.
We'll do it tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, we just took a flyer and asked, and they were like, "Oh, you want the $450 plan instead of the $650?" We're like, "Okay." Yeah, because we were complaining that $650 was too expensive. It hurt our chances of.
Well, yeah, we have the rate set to cover those expenses, so we're not doing anything, and we would love to lower the rates, and we can do that by lowering the cost of the charge point. So that we don't get as much usage, I think, at the community center as you guys do it.
Yeah, your rate is probably okay. I remember, you're charging. I don't think you're charging by time. You're charging by kilowatt hour. It seems like your rate was okay, but you might as well save the $200 a year if you can.
Yeah,
it just had bells and whistles.
We tried to set that rate to make sure we didn't lose money on it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's something you could probably look into
Thanks.
And save a couple bucks. All right. So we have the folks who are going to chat with us about this grant application for a new EV charging system. So, Chris, you want to go ahead and walk us through what we're considering?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris with Plug-in Stations. We put the ChargePoint station out there a while back, and we've been working with Ariana and Tim to discuss taking advantage of the current DEC funding to put in a fast charge station out in the lot there. So the difference between the level 2 station and the fast charge, just to try to get everybody on the same page. Basically, the stations that you have now will give you roughly 20 to 25 miles of driving range per hour of charging. whereas this fast charge station is more like 200 miles of range per hour of charging. So it's more attractive to people who are coming up the thruway or something like that to sort of pop in, charge, go get lunch, and then go on their way if they're heading to the North Country or something like that. So it's sort of a different beast, and it's more expensive to put in, but fortunately the DEC has a grant that will cover roughly 80% of the expenses associated. And I'm just going to jump in. I think Ron's going to join us in a second. He's been sort of spearheading this project, but I can take you through the basic ideas here.
All right, I'm on, Chris. How you doing, everybody?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks for kicking it off. So, I think Chris touched on, sort of. I always want to make sure everybody's on the same page as to the reasons why we're considering and want to do a project like this. So thanks, Chris, for touching on that. So yeah, I met with Central Hudson a few weeks back. Ariana and I met virtually with Central Hudson. We did a FaceTime or a Zoom site walk to look at the power situation at that lot, and wanted to talk over the feasibility of bringing enough power to feed a DC fast charging station, which requires 480 volts. And a significant amount of kilowatts, and also feed 2 additional level 2 stations, as well as the municipal buildings that are also fed from those transformers. Good news is that it's certainly a feasible project from a power standpoint, and Central Hudson is willing to, at least from what they saw when we were on site, they're willing to bring power to the meter at no charge. Basically, they're bringing power from across the street, across the other side of Political Ave, to a new pole they're going to set on the Peace Park side of the street with 3-phase transformers feeding both the buildings and our stations. So I don't know. If you guys have gotten a chance to take a look at the proposed site layout, I put in, we basically arranged the stations to keep the existing level 2 charger where it is, place the DC fast charger basically in front of the run, and then bringing the 2 level 2 chargers behind the existing charger. Certainly, we can rearrange this in any way that makes the most sense for the village. But this is the most feasible design, based on the to try to keep the cost down to a minimum, with site work and running wire and things like that. So from that's basically the site design, if you want to take a look at that. One of the better parts of this project and the way it works with the DEC grant is that basically they'll pay 80% of the project cost, leaving the village a 20% match. One of the benefits of this program is that the DEC will allow the village or the municipality to use non-cash costs for a portion or all of their 20% match. And in your case, we were able to roll in. Excuse me. We were able to roll in the cost of the real estate associated with the parking spaces. So that includes not only the actual cost value of the land, but all of the work that goes into maintaining that land and the municipal parking site. So we're able to roll that cost in, as well as some administrative costs, Ariana's time and other folks' time that are putting some efforts into this project. And other administrative costs, like there would be for some grant writing, things like that. So by doing that, the net cost of the project, actually, you have a net gain in terms of the project costs over the 2-year period that the grant will reimburse through. Now, some of those costs are reimbursed. I don't want to say upfront for it, but as you know, in the beginning of the project, for instance, the cost of the hardware of the station and any electrical construction costs will be reimbursed as you incur those costs. And then there are other costs that will be reimbursed over time, for instance, the cost of electricity. I also wanted to point out that Central Hudson, you're allowed to stack rebates with Central Hudson. For the DC fast charger, basically Central Hudson will cover the cost of the electricity for the first couple of years of the project, and then they will scale back their incentive over time. But that will be annual payouts, with the idea is to cover all or a portion of the electrical costs that go into the DC fast charger. That's only for the DC fast charger, and the level 2 chargers don't get reimbursed by Central Hudson. So when we look at the project from a financial standpoint over time, it's the costs of implementation of the project are covered by grants. And what I also did is we did an analysis over a 10-year analysis over, looking at what the 10-year projection is going to be on each of the stations. We did a analysis for the level 2 stations as well as the DC fast charger. So you can take a look at that. We made some assumptions based on how many sessions charging sessions you'd have each month, based on the expected growth rate of electric vehicles, and the history of your existing level 2 charger. We had some real data to come up with some of these numbers. And then we took a look at your average charging time and average charge times for other stations in the area as well, to come up with a financial projection for each of the stations. So basically, we're looking at when we put these projections out, we're looking at a slight loss for the DC fast charger over time when you look at the 10-year value. And the level 2 chargers have a significant net gain. So when you look at the project overall, it's a cash flow positive situation when you look at the project over 10 years.
I think Ariana and Tim, I think you guys have this spreadsheet, so anybody can feel free to play with our assumptions. We don't want to dictate what's definitely going to happen, but this is based on data from NYSERDA and just sort of, and also, like Ron said, the data from your existing station. So, just to give you a little bit of an introduction to what this sheet is, like this is all your usage assumptions in the top left corner here. And your pricing settings, you'll see, are set to 0 because the DEC will refund your electrical usage if you don't charge drivers. So it's sort of an incentive to drivers to get used to using the station, and just you're going to get a big bump in usage right in the start. And then we put in this flat charge per session based on the parking meter that you'll still be collecting while the station's in use. Then these are the revenues. So you're getting only the revenue from the meters here, but then there's this utility rebate that's made to sort of offset the high cost of operation of these fast chargers. Because you'll see, like, without that rebate, you're getting electrical demand charges that are around $6,000 a month, or $6,000 a year rather. So that really adds up on your electrical bill. But then this rebate is designed to get the station off the ground while the usage can't cover that demand charge. And then, as you get 5 or 10 years out in the future, you should expect to be revenue positive there, as we see an increase in drivership. So we're predicting here a 30% year-over-year increase in EV driving, and that's based on some numbers from Bloomberg that we've spent a long time looking over. But you can feel free to play with that assumption too, and it'll sort of populate everything else based on your future projections there. I don't know, Ron, I know you can't see what we're looking at here, but do you want to just open it to questions? Because I know this is sort of the first time we've done this in a remote fashion. It's kind of confusing, so I want to make sure we're not confusing people too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to just make sure we brought up the point that the DEC grant period ends on the 31st of May. So time is of the essence here to get the application in and together. We're really at red alert level in terms of being able to get this application in. So with that, I guess we can open the floor up to any questions or comments.
Right, and Ari, you can share with our group that you've showed these projections and assumptions to our treasurer, correct?
Yes, she was part of putting together what our our 20% match would be. So she's had a chance to look at this, and she didn't actually give me feedback on the proposal itself, but she was involved in the creation of it.
Can you guys walk me through the portion in terms of like the ongoing like expenses, like particularly like what are we expected to pay in terms of like having the software from ChargePoint?
Sure. So
sure. Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. Okay. So the grant will cover your first 2 years of software. So you'll see here that's rolled in there, but then they'll stop paying for it after 2 years. So you should see that in here. The software costs after the first 2 years, you have to start paying. So it's about $500 per year in software costs to operate the station. And then
that's for how many? That's for a single plug, right?
Yeah, this is for the DC fast station. So we don't have this year-over-year chart for both types of stations combined. So I guess we'll just have to go
with the existing level 2 charger.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know, Ron, if that existing charger is in there either. Do you know?
I didn't put the software costs for the existing charger.
All right. Actually, it looks
but
like
we also didn't include the electricity costs for that either.
For the, oh yeah. Okay, so we should go back and take a look at this. But essentially you're looking at, for each level 2 charger, approximately $500 per year of software costs. And for each DC fast charge, it's approximately the same cost, depending on, the most cost-effective way is to buy a few years out in advance. And then you get sort of a economy of scale on the purchase of the software.
Well, I mean, that's actually what we were just discussing with the town before you guys jumped on the call. So, we went from not using the software or not paying for it because we wanted to move away from the meters. And the quote we got was for $650. And then it was going to be like a retroactive start date of January 2020, which we also didn't think made sense. And when we pushed ChargePoint on that pricing, they said, oh, well, we can give you a better price at $450, if you need fewer bells and whistles. So
this is for the level 2?
Yeah.
I have no experience with their renewals department, and it sounds like, I don't know, the typical software rate is it was $560 a year, and then it actually was going up on May 1st. But if you were to buy a few years ahead, then it would come to be $500 per station per year.
Yeah, but we just thought it was curious when we said because Ari, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the price was north of $600. And when we said that doesn't really pencil out in terms of us being able to break even, then they came back with like a $200 haircut.
Yeah, it was like
So
638 down to 438.
So there's like an enterprise plan that I never really proposed that anyone get. I don't know, I don't know why you would need that functionality. It's more designed for like if you're operating a bunch of stations on a commercial level.
Yeah, I think it had to do with like if we had a fleet, which we don't have.
I mean, yeah, I apologize for that, but they have, there's like renewals people and existing business salespeople that are just in California, like making those calls to sell.
Because I think the challenge that we struggle with is like we want to support like EV penetration, but
Right.
everything we do, we're using taxpayer dollars. So we can't afford to enter into like something entrepreneurial where we might end up being cash flow negative. Like we're not trying to buy fire trucks with money from EV charging stations. Like we just want this to be like a break-even operation where we're encouraging EV penetration. So that's why it's really important that we don't get into a situation where we're actually losing money and paying for electricity just to support this concept.
Yeah, I hear you. So one thing to think about is, if you go back to the project level cost, you're ending up in those first 2 years with the $25,000 surplus, and whether that ends up being 20 or 30,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's going to cover your software expenses and your electrical expenses for a good ways going forward. And then, I can't guarantee that ridership or EV drivership is going to pick up in 5 years the way we're projecting. But if it doesn't, honestly, worst case scenario is you could shut the site down and then your costs would all go to zero. And, I'd hate to see that happen, obviously, and I don't think it would need to. But, ahead of you actually losing money operating a site, I think, while you're cash flow negative in these sort of 2022 to 2025, 26 years, overall, if you look at the whole project, you're going to have that bonus in the beginning that'll cover those losses through that time. And that's really why this program is there, to sort of, especially these utility rebates are, they know that it's super expensive to operate a high power piece of electrical equipment, and unless you're getting the use, you can't recoup those costs unless you're getting consistent use of the station, which nobody's projecting until 2025 or so. So, part of the reason this money is available is to sort of jumpstart the drivership, like you're saying. And, I sympathize with not wanting to spend money on software, especially if you're not recouping a lot of electrical costs. But on the other hand, these programs all do require some sort of networking, and they have the money to sort of offset that cost. And
so there is like a worst case bailout provision where we could just like close the electric account without a penalty.
Basically, like the DEC program language, I had this conversation with Myra at the DEC, who runs the program, and while their language states that they expect you to operate the site for 10 years, she says basically after you get through the 2-year contract period, then I have no teeth anymore, and if you shut the site down, then I won't stop you. So that's like a worst case scenario, and I don't see you getting to that point, but that's an option for sure. And that's why I've sort of bracketed these first 2020 and 2021 years as being the first 2 contract years. So you can sort of think of it as those 2 years in isolation if you need to.
Okay. Is there anything you can do to help us with, because Ariana was going to send a note to ChargePoint to, like, we just thought it felt a little unnecessary that when we said, okay, we want to move to start using your software, they're like, okay, fine, your retroactive start date is Jan 2020. We just felt like that didn't seem reasonable.
Yeah, that would rub me the wrong way too, and frankly it does. So yeah, we can, it's like a part of ChargePoint that I have no personal relationship with, are the sort of remote people in California who are the salespeople, but I'm happy to raise that flag to the people on the ground here who are working for ChargePoint.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe Ari can send you the email that she
frankly,
sent. I think she sent it this afternoon, or otherwise she'll send it tomorrow, the one over to the ChargePoint salesperson.
Yeah, please do. I'd like to see it.
That'd be great if you could help us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely loop you guys in. Thanks so much.
But this seems super, super interesting. And, I agree. This is the way we end up with EV penetration. So as a board, I'm comfortable with motioning to approve you guys to go ahead and pursue this grant application. Do my board colleagues have any additional thoughts?
No, I agree as well.
Okay, motion to engage Chris and Ron's team to write the grant app.
Okay.
I have a second. I hear someone eating carrots.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Hey, this is Neil. Chris and Ron, I wish we'd maybe talked earlier. This sounds like a great project. Maybe next year, if the program is still going, we can talk about doing a similar thing at the police and courts building that we're working on. It might be nice to get a fast charger out there, especially it seems like it's revenue neutral for a couple of years. It makes a lot of sense. So, and we're closer to the thruway. So maybe we'll connect after this.
Oh yeah, that sounds
Absolutely.
great.
Happy to.
That sounds interesting too, Neil, in terms of if the police department ends up using EVs in the future, because I think these stations, they're supposed to also be used for fleets, correct?
That's exactly what I was thinking about it. We're buying.
Yeah, it'd be great to have it open to the public or
right
to
now.
the PD.
Yeah, there's other programs there too. I mean, I love doing the fast charge stations because, I think it's really, it draws people in and really helps people become EV adopters. But if you're looking for fleet usage too, there's other programs that we can run to help pay for that kind of charging as well. We're doing that with a lot of municipalities.
Good. Okay. Well, we can then. We're all set with you guys, I guess. Do you need anything from us besides like this green light that you heard from our board?
We'll get in touch with Ariana. There's some aspects of things that are happening in town that make it a desirable place to have an EV that you have to put to the DEC as part of the application. So we'll need to do a couple conversations regarding a couple different aspects of the grant. So Ron will get in touch about that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for the time.
All right. Thanks a
Sounds
lot.
great. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Ariana. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so our next business agenda item is we have this petition to amend the B1 zone in the village. We discussed this back in early March. I really feel like we need to take a closer look at this and get an opinion from our attorney. Because I think we were under the impression that this was like a simple change to Schedule A in terms of uses, but it feels like it is that, but then it's also like the inclusion of a very specific definition for boutique hotels. It just feels like I just would like to get council's opinion before we go ahead with something like this. Any other thoughts from the board?
I mean, that's my recollection, that the applicant tailored it to what they want to do, but I think that we're amenable to something broader. So that they can just fit into Schedule A and we don't want to make it as narrow as what happens to work for them now, but it could be something that's broad that would work for them as well as for other potential applicants and in other districts as well. So to look, I think we were thinking NBR, but I mean, you can look at any of the districts and consider it, but I think those are the logical ones.
Bill, do you know, have you had a conversation with like Ashley or Rick from our planning board attorneys on this type of proposed legislation?
Not yet. I could. Easy. I mean, run it
Yeah, I
by
think we
him.
should maybe touch base with Will. We should get Will to look more closely at this and just have a conversation with him. That to me feels like the best next step, because it feels like this might be like unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah.
But I'm not certain. So Ari, could you just send this package to Will and just tell him we should talk to him like in the next few days, just so we don't let it slip between cracks? Because I think we may have done that during the last few weeks, just like.
Yeah, absolutely. I also just want to say that John Oleski, chair of the planning board, made a comment on the public feed saying that you also need an advisory memo from the planning board before any public hearing on any zoning change, which I know you guys already know, but I wanted to.
We totally know. We totally know that, but we also have to get comfortable with a code change before we'd even do that. So
right, that's down the road. But yeah, been there, done that, got it. But I actually did have a planning board question, which is, are they in the planning board pipeline now, or are they just completely held up waiting for us to do?
I think the latter.
Okay.
We need a conversation with Will.
Yeah.
And did we have that conversation with Will and John Oleski when we were talking about the HPC review process from last week? Did that take place?
I don't know if they spoke or not.
Tasked with that.
Maybe we could do both of those conversations with Will at the same time and include John if he's available.
Yeah, that sounds
I mean,
good.
I would be fine if it's just like me, John, and Will, just to get the ball rolling. And then we can relay to others in terms of like, at least for this, like, is this complicated? Like, because if it's not, maybe we could make it less complicated. So Ari, could you send this to Will? Maybe just do a three-way note with me, Will, and John, and say that the three of us should have a conversation early next week.
Definitely.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, so the next item is this Chazen lot line revision regarding our groundwater well project up at Mohonk. You know, we've been looking at this for a few years now. I really feel like we need to see if we could ask the Mohonk Preserve to consider working with us on a project that would not cost the municipal water users in New Paltz as much money as this project's going to cost, because the idea when we discussed it with the former executive director of the Mohonk Preserve a few years ago didn't seem this complicated, but once you start including an expensive process that involves a new survey, it just feels like we're spending tens of thousands of dollars that really I don't think contribute to anything. And you know, I feel like, you know, Mohonk Preserve is an important neighbor. They should view us as an important neighbor, and maybe we can approach them on you know, doing this collaboratively in a way that makes the most sense for our ratepayers, you know, especially considering all the financial challenges that we're facing with this pandemic, and we're you know, trying to do our best to provide clean, affordable, safe drinking water to our community, and we could really use their help and, you know, try to make this project as streamlined and as affordable as possible. Did anyone have any questions about the attachment in that piece, the proposal from Chazen? Well, I'll then go ahead and ask representatives from Mohonk Preserve to see if they'll chat with us further, because I'd love to figure out a way to do this where it doesn't cost us as much money as, you know, what would be required in this proposal.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next item here? This let me see. This is the Matt Gallucci MOA and longevity payment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion here, you know, because we're just trying to get this correct in terms of how we do the, you know, make sure that the longevity payment that the village board could end up paying Matt, considering that, you know, he's been working for the village for X number of years, is handled correctly, as well as the MOA that we would need between the village and the union that Matt has been a member of. So this is my motion. Part one, to pay longevity to Matt Gallucci, which would have come due on June 2020 if he was still an employee. And number two, authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of agreement with CSEA regarding Mr. Gallucci's separation of employment with the village, subject to final version approved by the village attorney. And that's my motion. Does anyone want to second it? And then we can have a general, I mean, if we want to go into specific conversations, we could go into exec, but I think very broad conversation we can have, unless we just want to go ahead and move this forward.
I'm good with moving it forward. Second.
Okay, no discussion, or do you want to have discussion in exec?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Great. Next agenda item. Millbrook Preserve Recreation Plans. I spoke a little bit with Ariana and KT this afternoon. KT, do you want to walk us through any of this?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah, I actually didn't get a chance to see this amendment till earlier this evening, so I'm not ready to vote on it, but just to back up and to illuminate you on what the process is. The name recreation plan is a little weird. It's just inappropriate. I don't know. It doesn't really convey what the rec plan is, which is basically any kind of impact in the preserve. What it could be a structure, and it could be something that even would have to go through planning board. We don't have anything in there that would involve that yet, because when we went through this process, we decided, instead of creating a whole plan of all the what ifs, that as the preserve proceeded, they would amend this plan with the quote unquote sort of rule book for how impacts on everything from, bridges to trails and stuff like that. What are the specifications? We could have Michelle, if you want me to get you up to speed offline. It's complicated because there's multiple property owners in the preserve, and including us, and different sorts of documents like conservation easements that dictate what can and can't happen. And then this is even another layer on that document. So the town has already approved this amendment. Everybody should look at the existing rec plan and then look at what they want to add to that as well. And, you know, come back if you have questions about that. I can relay that to our contact at Millbrook Preserve. And that's basically what that is all about.
Okay, so you're not ready to,
On the next time, right, Tim?
You're not ready to take action tonight.
Yeah, I didn't even have the amendment until later this afternoon.
Okay, so let's put it on the next agenda.
I mean, it's on me because I should have noticed it sooner, but yeah.
I'm fine with putting on the next agenda. Everyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, a motion that we go ahead and move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody want to provide a report from the planning board?
They didn't meet, so they're talking about having a training session with the attorney, but that topic hasn't been decided yet.
Okay, how about ZBA? Have ZBA met?
Yeah, there was nothing on the agenda except for some administrative stuff. But then they used the time to have another training session.
Okay. And then Ari, you want to walk us through this village Zoom account idea? This was just to, instead of using KT's personal account, we were going to go ahead and pay the monthly charge to have a Zoom account. It's just that straightforward, right, Ari?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, basically, we've started having more meetings that I'm setting up for people. Last night was Environmental Policy Board. Next Monday is Historic Preservation Commission. And, you know, I think for the legal side of us and open meetings laws, it will be best if we do set up all these meetings. And, you know, now that this seems like it's a really good way of doing this and we've got a system going, you know, Alana said that she wants to have the planning board doing this as well, but John actually, Chair Oleski said that he would like to do it this way. They've been using WebEx for free, but just so everybody knows. But it seems like it would be the most prudent of us to just go ahead and spend the money. And I spoke with Nancy about it and she said whether we go with the most, you know, basic plan, which is $15 a month, or the one that's a little bit more, which is $20 a month, either is fine. I think we should just start with the $15 a month one. And then if we encounter a situation where we need to have more users, we can figure it out from there. But I think for right now, we only really need one licensed user. We don't seem to have that many overlapping meetings, so I think we should be okay.
Okay, a motion that we go ahead and pay for a monthly Zoom account at $15 a month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, this is Neil. Sorry to interrupt here again. I think I tried to say this earlier, but I was on mute. And so the Ulster County Planning Department sent a memo around. They're recommending doing exactly what you're doing now for planning boards, is to use a Zoom account, stream it live to YouTube. And so that's a really good reason for you to buy the account. Ariana was ahead of the curve with figuring all this out, so thank you. It worked out really well for the town. At our meeting last week, we're going to keep doing it. They have done a lot of upgrades with security and encryption, so it's encrypted both ways now. So a lot of the early talk about Zoom not being as good is past. Also, with the way you're doing it with the YouTube streaming, it overcomes a lot of those issues. The last thing is you mentioned the $15 account and then the more expensive account. That's for 10 users a month. So it's actually 10 times 19. So it's 190 a month. So you might end up sticking with the plan that you're going with at $15 a month, which is what we're going to be doing in the town.
Good stuff.
Just so you know.
Cool. Thanks for that, Neil.
And so the big difference, we were using WebEx but you cannot record video to WebEx, and you can't stream to YouTube. At least we were unable to, as far as I could figure out.
Yeah, that was
so
the same
Zoom-
thing with Google Hangouts. That's why we didn't do it.
Yeah, so we switched over to Zoom. Everyone's switching over. The Ulster County Planning Department sent a kind of a step-by-step memo around. If you didn't get it, I can forward it to you. So yeah, it's the way to go. You guys are making the right choice. So sorry to just weigh in after you did it, but I just wanted to thank Ariana for really helping us set ours up.
You're very welcome, Neil. It was my pleasure. And I just have to say, I appreciate all of the kudos that you guys are giving me, but I have to thank Anton, the chair of our Public Access Committee, because he was the one who taught me how to do this. He sent me the information. So credit where credit is due.
Sounds good. So did we vote on the motion?
I don't know if you actually did. Who seconded?
I think KT did.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay. So the next item, we've been contacted by a resident of New Paltz who would like to see us purchase a permanent sign, and that sign she wanted located at Mulberry and Huguenot Street that asked people to walk on the left-hand side of the street. I've brought this to the attention of the police department, as well as to the Historic Huguenot Street Society folks. Historic Huguenot Street said that they are actually in the process of re-recording their app that people can do self-guided tours, and they will put that information encouraging folks to walk on the left side of the street when they're going ahead and doing a tour. But this individual was, has said that they have contacted our clerk's office and my office and have spoken with the clerk's office. And, I've escalated all of her comments and concerns to the police department, spoken with village board members. We get contacted regularly. We try to handle every single phone call, or every single request. And so this individual has asked us to consider purchasing a permanent sign on the intersection of Mulberry and Huguenot Street.
Is this the only individual who's asked us to do this?
As far as I know.
So one person is making this request, is that right?
I'm sorry?
So one person is making this request, is that correct?
As far as I know.
Did you talk to Rob about it? Did he think?
I've talked to Rob several times about it.
And he doesn't think we need it, or he does?
He does not.
Okay. I mean, I would defer to his judgment on that.
Yeah.
Seems to me, walking on Huguenot is part of the culture of Huguenot Street, and seems to work well. Rob would know if there were accidents or reports. So.
People have been walking on the street for a couple hundred years now.
Yeah.
And I recognize
Never
that
had a sign yet.
The law is to walk on the left-hand side of the street. I'm unaware of any other areas where we have signs instructing people how to walk when there are not sidewalks. I think like KT was saying, we're unaware of any incidents except for this individual who would prefer that there was a sign. This is like our regular everyday life where folks tell us that we need more signs. Often there are signs in place. I don't necessarily think that signs are panaceas that fix or social engineer, but I don't see a need to spend the money. And even if we had the money or could wave a magic wand and create a sign there, I don't think that suddenly people would start doing exactly what this person wants them to do.
Yeah, I would, second that sentiment about the money, especially right now. But also, if Huguenot Street is going to put that on their app for tours, perhaps that will help solve the problem. And, you know, if the police department starts to notice something, then we can revisit that. If there is, if more people come forward, if there is some kind of desperate need for some kind of change there, but perhaps it being on the app alone will help solve some of that.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully that is helpful, but I don't know,
But
do we
you
need
know,
any?
Tim, just to be clear, sometimes we do put a sign up when people ask. It's not like we always say no. There have been times where we're like, oh, okay. And the police chief says, oh yeah, maybe. But
Yeah, I think when the elected
Instance.
officials and the folks who are responsible for pedestrian and vehicle safety, like the police department, you know, absolutely signs are needed. You know, DOT puts signs up. We work with DOT best we can, but you know, we can't put signs up, or it wouldn't make sense to put up signs just because someone wants a sign. You know, we need to have a process. You know, things need to add up.
So this is Neil. I'll try not to keep weighing in on village business, but KT can also kind of weigh in. You know, when I was my prior life as a scientist, there's this theory called the information deficit hypothesis, and that's the only reason people don't do the right thing or maybe make the right decisions is because they don't know the right information. It's kind of been proven that's not really an effective way to solve problems. So just by putting a sign up doesn't mean you're actually going to get the result you want anyway. So that's enough for me.
yeah, I mean, it's not really like a common sign, but it's a rule we kind of all know. So that's not how you learn how to do that, is through signage, is what that indicates to me.
All right. Okay, do we have anything else on our agenda, or should we?
We're good to go.
Did you want to talk about the cleanup?
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Right. So the cleanup, yeah, because we looked at this early on when we were trying to identify ways to save money. The cleanup actually costs us a great deal of money. When people leave items out, then we have to pay to dispose of. And we've had numerous people ask us about our plans for cleanup, and our response so far has been that we wanted to postpone it, you know, maybe until the fall. But maybe a happy median would be to at least do the branches and bagged leaves and other, you know, yard waste related stuff, so that, you know, that will cost the village less money. We can grind up those things and bring it down to the garden for nutrition. But the larger items or the junk that costs us money to dispose of, we could just continue to keep that piece of the project postponed. So we already actually have created flyers, and we're looking at dates. And I've been working on that with the Public Works Department.
I'm already seeing brush out in front of people's homes, so maybe they are just hoping for that day to come. But we don't.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why we were thinking, let's go ahead and formally announce it, and then give people enough lead time for those who have heard it was postponed. They could at least, you know, get their brush and leaves out.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Is
you know,
Neil still on the line?
the mattresses and the toilets and, you know, tires and all the rest of that stuff that actually costs us a bunch of money.
That's postponed.
Yeah.
Is the town doing? Is the town
I'm
doing
still on the
pickup
line.
now?
Yeah, we're
Are
doing.
you still doing?
I think we're going to be done probably in another week, if I remember correctly. We've been picking up brush for maybe a week or two now.
Yeah, and my understanding of the town's brush cleanup, it would be more similar to what we want to do. So it, you know, is a bit labor intensive. You know, I believe the town is able to do it with the mechanical claw. So it's not, it's a different type of project. Like, we're not comparing apples and oranges when we compare like the village spring cleanup to the towns. The towns is more of like a a brush focus thing that we do in the fall and that we could consider doing as a modified spring cleanup this year.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll work on getting that finalized flyer from our Public Works Department. Thanks for reminding us about that, Michelle, that we added.
It's something my HOA president asked me, so I had it written down to make sure I can respond to her.
Perfect, yeah. Okay, so we'll have dates for that we can share with the public soon. Is that all?
That's all, folks. Move to
All right.
adjourn.
See you tomorrow at 3.
KK.
Okay,
Ciao,
Good
Bella.
night, everybody.
bye.
Bye.